There is a quiet, heavy silence that often surrounds a man as he enters his later years. It is in this silence that the ghosts of his past choices finally catch up to him. Society rarely allows men the luxury of looking backward. From a very young age, a man is conditioned to keep his eyes fixed firmly on the horizon. He is told to build, to provide, to conquer, and to endure. He spends decades marching forward, carrying the immense weight of duty on his back. But when the marching finally stops, when retirement arrives, when the children leave home, when the house is finally quiet, a psychological reckoning occurs. In the field of psychology, we know that reflection is the ultimate catalyst for wisdom. When senior men are asked to look back on their lives with unfiltered honesty, they do not regret the money they failed to make, nor the superficial status they failed to achieve. Their regrets are far deeper. They regret the pieces of their soul they gave away and the time they can never buy back. Today we are going to explore the psychology of hindsight. We will dissect the 7 profound things that older men secretly regret. This is not a journey to induce guilt. It is a masterclass in wisdom. For the older man, it is validation. For the younger man, it is a map to avoid the traps of life. Let us uncover the truth. Point number 1, spending too much time trying to please everyone. From the dawn of his adulthood, a man is infected with the psychological virus of the good guy. He believes that his value is strictly determined by his utility to others. He wants to be the dependable son, the perfect employee, the accommodating husband, and the flawless friend. This leads to a lifetime of boundary collapse. Many older men look back and realize they spent 4 decades saying yes when their soul was screaming no. They negotiated away their own preferences to keep the peace. They swallowed their own opinions to avoid conflict. In clinical psychology, chronic people-pleasing is recognized as a trauma response, a desperate attempt to manage the anxiety of being rejected. But the ultimate cost is the loss of identity. The senior man looks back and realizes the bitter irony. The people he sacrificed his own happiness to please were rarely satisfied, and they rarely returned the favor. He realizes that the pursuit of universal approval is a labyrinth with no exit. His deepest regret is that he did not start saying a firm, unapologetic no 30 years earlier. He realizes that a man who belongs to everyone ultimately belongs to no one, not even himself. Point number 2, working too much and living too little. If there is a universal trap designed specifically for men, it is the illusion that excessive labor equals a successful life. Society demands that a man be a provider. And in his noble attempt to build a fortress of financial security for himself and his family, a man often becomes a prisoner of his own ambition. Many men operate under the deferred life plan. They tell themselves, I will work 60 hours a week now so that I can finally live when I retire. I will travel the world at 65. I will learn to paint at 65. I will spend time in nature at 65. But this is a catastrophic psychological gamble. When the older man finally reaches the finish line, he often discovers a heartbreaking reality. His bank account is full, but his physical energy has waned. His children have grown up and moved away without him. The summers he spent trapped in a cubicle are gone forever. He realizes that wealth is completely meaningless if it is purchased with the currency of actual, lived experience. The older man regrets treating the present moment as merely an obstacle to overcome to get to the future. He wishes he had taken the vacation. He wishes he had left the office at 5 p.m. He realizes that nobody on their deathbed ever wished they had spent more time at the office. Point number 3, staying far too long in the wrong relationships. In behavioral economics, there is a concept called the sunk cost fallacy. It is the phenomenon where a person continues an endeavor because of previously invested resources, time, money, or effort, even if the current reality is making them miserable. This fallacy is the silent executioner of a man's happiness. Many older men look back at their 30s, 40s, and 50s and realize they spent decades in romantic relationships that were devoid of respect, affection, and peace. Why did they stay? Out of duty. For the children. Because of financial fear. Or simply out of the terrifying comfort of the familiar. They tolerated emotional abuse, constant arguments, and a dead bedroom because they believed that endurance was a virtue. They treated suffering as a badge of honor. But endurance in a toxic environment is not a virtue. It is self-betrayal. When the older man finally breaks free, or when the relationship inevitably collapses, He looks back at the timeline of his life. He does not regret the divorce. He regrets that he delayed the divorce for 15 years. He realizes that the ultimate tragedy is not being alone. The ultimate tragedy is spending your short, precious life sharing a bed with someone who makes you feel completely invisible. He regrets not having the courage to choose his peace sooner. Point number 4. Caring entirely too much about what other people thought. We are social creatures, biologically programmed to seek the safety of the tribe. In modern society, this translates into an obsession with the optics of success. A man buys a car he cannot afford to impress neighbors he does not like. He chooses a prestigious career that makes him miserable simply because it sounds impressive at dinner parties. He stays silent in conversations because he fears social ostracization. As a man enters his senior years, the veil is completely lifted. He realizes that the audience he spent his entire life performing for was completely imaginary. He realizes a brutal but liberating psychological truth. Nobody was actually paying attention. Everyone is too consumed with their own insecurities and their own lives to care deeply about the choices of others. The older man looks back and regrets the vast amount of mental energy he wasted trying to manage his reputation. He wishes he had pursued his weird hobbies. He wishes he had spoken his mind with ruthless authenticity. He realizes that the prison of public opinion has no locked doors. The inmates simply choose not to leave. Once he stops caring, he unlocks a level of freedom that feels almost like a superpower. Point number 5. Neglecting their physical and mental health. When a man is in his 20s and 30s, his body is incredibly forgiving. He can eat poorly, sleep 4 hours a night, endure massive amounts of cortisol from stress, and still wake up the next morning ready to conquer the world. He begins to view his body not as a temple, but as a machine designed purely to facilitate his ambitions. But the bill for this biological negligence always comes due. Many men spend the first half of their lives sacrificing their health to accumulate wealth, only to spend the second half of their lives spending all their wealth in a desperate bid to buy back their health. The older man regrets every skipped workout. He regrets every time he ignored a chronic pain because he was too busy to see a doctor. He realizes that biological sovereignty is the foundation of all human happiness. You cannot enjoy your retirement, your wealth, or your grandchildren if you are physically incapable of walking through the park. He wishes he had treated his body with the profound reverence and discipline it deserved. Point number 6. Waiting too long to actually enjoy life. There is a psychological condition endemic to modern men, the someday syndrome. Someday when the kids are through college, I'll take that trip. Someday when I get the promotion, I'll buy that boat. Someday, when things slow down, I will finally be happy. The tragedy of someday is that it is not a day of the week. It is a psychological defense mechanism used to avoid the vulnerability of living in the present. The older man looks at the untouched hobbies and the delayed dreams, and he realizes a brutal truth. Conditions are never perfect. There will always be a bill to pay. There will always be a crisis to manage. There will always be a logical excuse to postpone joy. His profound regret is that he believed joy was a reward to be earned at the end of a long life, rather than a practice to be cultivated every single day. He realizes that life is not a dress rehearsal. The curtain is already up. The time to experience the beauty of the world was always right now. Point number 7, and the ultimate realization. Not protecting their peace earlier. If there is one common denominator among men who reach their senior years, it is the absolute premium they place on inner peace. After decades of enduring emotional drama, workplace politics, and the relentless noise of the world, a man's nervous system demands equilibrium. The senior man looks back at his life and sees how freely he gave out the keys to his kingdom. He allowed toxic friends to drain his energy. He allowed manipulative partners to destroy his sanctuary. He allowed the stress of the world to dictate his emotional state. His greatest regret is that he did not become a ruthless gatekeeper of his own reality 3 decades earlier. He realizes that establishing strict boundaries is not an act of arrogance. It is the ultimate act of self-love. He wishes he had known that walking away from drama, removing toxic people, and prioritizing his own tranquility was his fundamental right as a man. He finally understands that a man's peace is his ultimate wealth, and protecting it is his highest duty. To the younger men watching this, let the regrets of the older generation be your map. You do not have to wait until you are 60 to reclaim your time, to enforce your boundaries, and to stop pleasing the crowd. You can choose to live right now. And to the older men watching this, regret is a harsh teacher, but it is not a life sentence. As long as you have breath in your lungs, the story is not over. If this video resonated with your journey, I want to hear your truth. Head down to the comments and tell me, which of these 7 regrets hits closest to home for you, and what are you doing today to change it? Your scars and your wisdom will help guide the men who are still fighting blindly through the storm. If you found value in this deep dive into male psychology, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a lesson. Thank you for watching. Until next time, guard your sanctuary and start living today.